Hey folks, Chris Hobart here, the Wealthologist. Now, if you think the Fed is a boring, buttoned up place where nobody raises their voice, I gotta tell you what, think again. You see, two governors are openly defying Chairman Powell. Trump is lining up his replacement picks like contestants on a reality show, and the September meeting could flip U.S. monetary policy on its head. Now, there's a twist. This isn't just about cutting rates. There's actually a serious chance we're about to undo a pretty significant change to the Fed policy that happened in our lifetimes, a change that dates back to Ben Bernanke and the financial crisis. Are you ready? Buckle up. All right, let's start with the scene at the last Fed meeting. Just 2 weeks ago, Powell says we are holding rates steady. Now, normally, that's the end of the story. Maybe a mild dissent here or there, but nothing much. Not this time. Christopher Waller and Michelle Bowman, both sitting Fed governors, well, they voted against him. They wanted to push for rate cuts right now. Now, Bowman's even gone public saying she wants 3 cuts this year. Now, here's why that matters. In Fed history, a double dissent like this hasn't happened since 1993. Uh, to put that into perspective, that's when I still had color in my hair and I was in high school. The Fed usually keeps disagreements like this pretty polite and private, but this was loud and clear. See, Powell's term as chair, it ends next year. Now that means any governor looking to replace him has a very short window to prove their vision for the Fed. Now, in politics, and I got to tell you, make no mistake, the Fed is political. Dissent can be an addition. So here's the twist. Adriana Kugler, a Biden appointee, well, resigns early. Trump can now nominate Stephen Mirren, his current Council of Economic Advisors chair. Now, if confirmed before the September meeting, Mirren is almost certain to join the cut rates camp. That changes the math drastically. Right now, Powell has the votes to hold steady, but with Mirren in place, September could be the turning point towards rate cuts. Now, Trump has a short list for Fed chair rate, and it reads kind of like an all-star roster of different economic philosophies. You've got Kevin Warsh, who's the former Fed governor, who's known for hawkish credibility. You've got Kevin Hassett, Trump's former economic advisor. You've got Bowman and Waller, the current dissenters we talked about. You got a former Bush aide in Summerlin. You've got James Bullard, which is the former St. Louis Fed president. Here's the thing, it's a long list. And here's Trump's playbook. Keep that list long, make the candidates compete, and pick the one who promises both lower rates and market confidence. In other words, someone who will keep inflation tame but isn't afraid to juice the economy heading into an election year. Now, I think this is when we get to the part that almost no one's talking about. And I think it's the real story. This is, well, this fight might not just be about interest rates at all. You see, back in the mid 2000s, Ben Bernanke pushed a radical change. The Fed would stop controlling interest rates by managing the scarcity of bank reserves and instead flood the system with reserves and pay banks interest on them. This is what was called abundant reserves. And this system went into overdrive after the 2008 financial crisis and during COVID, which led to the Fed's current $7+ trillion balance sheet. So, what's the result? Well, the Fed can set short term rates directly, but it also runs massive operating deficits and has less natural market feedback. So, some in Trump's circle, and maybe some contenders for Powell's job, they want to go back to the old system, which would mean that the Fed controlling rates by letting reserves become scarce again, letting the market set more of the short term rate, and potentially shrinking the balance sheet dramatically. Now, I got to tell you, that's not just a tweak. It's kind of like tearing out the engine of a car and putting it, well, on the side and putting a totally different one in. Now, if you're an investor, this could be kind of a sign for more market driven volatility in rates. And if you're a borrower, short term rates might move faster in response to market conditions. And if you're a saver, it could mean higher yields when inflation pressure rises, but also less stability. And if you're in Washington, well, this could be the biggest turf battle over monetary policy since Paul Volcker's war on inflation back in the 1980s. Now, personally, I think the political drama It's just the appetizer. You see, the real main course is whether the Fed keeps micromanaging rates with abundant reserves or goes back to a more market driven model. The abundant reserves model, it worked for crises, no question about it. But what about normal times? I got to tell you, it's expensive. It's also distortive, and it makes the Fed's footprint really, really enormous. Moving back to the old system, it might and probably will hurt in the short run. Markets, we've talked about this, they hate change, but it could restore a healthier discipline in the long run. So, what do we want to do? What are our action steps? First, watch September. If Mirren's confirmed, the vote balance changes. Number two, track the short list. The next chair could be named by year's end. Number three, understand the policy stakes. Rate cuts are short term, policy structure is generational. Now, my question to you is what matters more? Cheaper borrowing now or long term fix to how the Fed works? Tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you want the inside scoop before the markets figure it out, just hit like, subscribe, and share because when this Fed drama turns into policy action, you're going to want to be ahead of it. All right. Until next time, have a great week.